Hello, I'm Mr. James.
And I'm Mr. Ritchie.
And we are
the
educators. Da, 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 da. Even though that's a Thanksgiving song, this is kind of our holiday thing. This is the New American Thanksgiving, episode 18, season 3.
The New American Christmas.
Christmas, that's right.
Yes.
I don't even know my holidays, because honestly, are we really celebrating anything?
We don't.
No.
we have kids, so we put on the act for them.
Yeah, so it's December 23rd. It's a Wednesday. It's not Thursday, because this year Thursday is the night before, and then Friday is the day. And we're gonna have a giant windstorm and rainstorm, and we may lose power. So for those that really want to celebrate, it might be horrible.
Yeah, I know. It's like some people are really have a lot of angst over this right now. It's because Christmas Day, we're supposed to get, at least from here to Portland, 56-mile-an-hour wind gusts.
Yeah,
which is substantial. And so my daycare lady, who watches my kid, she loses power as soon as the wind blows.
Yeah.
And so she's looking forward. She's just like, yep, that's it. Christmas Day. My entire Christmas is going to be spent in the dark. And people are wicked, angsty about it. And luckily, I don't know, I don't have to worry about power outages much where I am. I imagine you don't really either.
Yeah, well, actually, the last storm, the rain, storm, and wind thing we had, I lost power. It was just during the night, basically, but it was 8 o'clock, everything shuts off, and then it goes back on at 2:48 in the morning. And the only reason I knew that because everything turns on that you didn't want to turn on. Lights that are normally like a Wi-Fi light basically says, oh, guess what? Go up the brightest, so everything turns on. The house, you hear everything clicking and stuff, and you wake up like, what's going on? And it's now I'm just getting power back. That's great. So
yeah, well, we lost power for 15 seconds, just long enough for me to put my phone down, stand up, walk towards the box that I have labeled lights out kit is what I have, and it's got candles and flashlights and batteries and things like that, and it's conveniently there. And I walk over, I put my hands on it, lights turn back on. I'm like, well, my job is done here, but this one coming up, we got to be careful here, because this thing is gonna 56 mile an hour is more than what we had last time, so it's certainly substantial. So we'll see what happens.
We all need a Tesla battery in the basement.
Yes, we do. Yeah, Powerwall and solar on top to charge it.
There's a $25,000-$30,000 improvement. Yeah. So expensive, but maybe someday it's going to come down. Of course, what we really want to come down is COVID-19. How's that going in the state, in the U.S.?
Not good. Not good. It has been the trend for a while now. Interestingly enough, we had our biggest record-breaking number of cases today in Maine of 748, which is a stark difference from the previous days. We just got over the 500 mark a couple of days, and boom, up to 700 one day. Now, that's not even factoring in on my stats I'm going to say here in just a second. They'll be factored into next week's stats. But for today, over the last week, we have an increase of 2,983 cases in Maine. And for those listeners that were listening in just in October it was 30 a day, a day. And we were stressed out when's it going to be over 50? And then, it shot up to over 100, in a few days, it seemed. Wow. Now we're up over 500, up over 700 maybe now going forward. So not looking good. Last week, the weekly increase was 2,800. So we're still increasing. It's still climbing sharper and sharper. And in the U.S., interestingly enough, the number went down. So 1,511,800 versus last week, the weekly increase was 1,546,500. So I don't think that that's trending downward. However, I just think that that's just some of the data, and by the looks of it, I'm sure next week we'll be making up for that lost time in the world. Because this is what I was talking about last week too. Last week I thought that the U.S. had made up a significant portion of the world's new cases. Well, this time around, it turns out to be different. So U.S. cases went down by about 30,000, 35,000 this week over last. But in the world, 4,670,000 new cases. And the weekly increase last week was 4.3 million. So still rising upward, a increasing rate worldwide. So it's not awesome. But New Zealand's getting back to normal. I don't know if we talked a lot about that, but New Zealand, they're having like Australia's having music concerts and music venues are open again. People are maskless and able to travel between New Zealand and Australia. And
I mean, it's nice being like an island like that, I guess. I mean,
one of the advantages, I guess. But I mean,
there are animals there that can kill you like very easily. There's, like,
everything's got its limitations.
Everything there, even the squirrels are like poisonous. It's just
But that's what it is. So we're still increasing, but hopefully soon we'll be on the cusp. It's shortest day of the year was yesterday. So January unfortunately is when the cold weather really catches up with us around here. So between now and like the end of January is the coldest stretch of the year. And the
worst thing is, I mean, we talked about Thanksgiving before, and we said, please, before we did it, we said, please, anybody listening, or hope someone's listening. I mean, there's a few people, according to Anchor, but we're like, please, if you're listening, please don't travel, don't meet up with family. People did, and that's why we probably see these increases. And now, guess what? Those that didn't said, well, you know what? We didn't do it for then, but we're definitely going to do it now for Christmas or whatever holiday they might be after Thanksgiving. And I'm hoping in 2 weeks we're not like looking at numbers like 1,200 or 1,500 in one day.
Yeah, I think that we will be, unfortunately, just because, like what we're seeing right now, and the scientists are saying, is it's family spread. So right now it's not community spread. And unfortunately, if you go on social media, you'll see people like, well, the increases just keep increasing, so these masks must not be working. Well, no, like when you're with family, you don't wear a mask. So, when you're eating dinner, you take the mask off. And in 2 weeks from now is kind of when the numbers will be starting to reflect it, because it took like 3 weeks really for this, because people will get sick 2 weeks from now. But when their symptoms onset, they don't go to the hospital. They call the hospital, and the hospital says, stay there until you're deathly ill. I had a Facebook friend of mine, so not a friend, but a Facebook friend of mine, contract serious, life-threatening symptoms. And the hospital did everything that they could do to keep them from coming in. So they did go to the emergency room once. They were there for a few hours, were sent back home. A couple of days went by. They tried to go back to the emergency room. They were denied. They said, no, you're not serious enough. And she was basically saying that she couldn't breathe, that she felt lightheaded from not being able to breathe, and like her oxygen had dropped, and still they wouldn't let her in. Like, I don't know what the what symptoms you have to have before they're going to let you in right now, because it was a rural hospital. And so there's very limited bed space, especially for a negative pressure room where you have to be if you're in a hospital with coronavirus. And so it's serious enough that hospitals are turning people away around here. And so, it's going to take a few weeks for us to realize the effects from Christmas, because some people will take Christmas or whatever winter holiday that you're doing after Thanksgiving, but sometimes they'll take that holiday more seriously than something like Thanksgiving, which, created a big spike in cases. But it also coincides with the cold weather. You and I in school, we're still opening up the windows after every class.
It's freezing, but who cares?
Freezing, yeah. Luckily we have a good heating system in this school. I can only imagine the schools that were built in the 50s that people are still teaching in. That's a little bit different, but at least in our case, we open up the windows. It freezes out the whole thing. We shut it down, clean everything. Schools are still extremely safe places to be. We're still in school. for better or worse. And hopefully soon we won't have to be talking about this so much, or at least focusing on it someday. But it is what created this show, so it has its advantages.
Well, moving on to science.
Let's move on.
Yeah. So, a lot of good things this week. Couple sciencey, well, they're all sciencey, but a couple things about the space and certain things that happen. I think one thing we actually don't have listed here, which you probably could talk up really quickly, is the fact that we had Saturn and Jupiter that people could actually see in the sky. We could not, though, because of the cloud cover.
Yesterday, I was able to catch a glimpse in between. Oh, I have a cat trying to climb up me right now. I was able to catch a glimpse on the way home after work. It was wicked overcast, but on the way home, there's like a break in the clouds, and you could just see it. They had already separated, so like that up in the sky. But yeah, for Thursday when conjunction was best, when they were wicked close, and looked like one star, we couldn't see it. Of course, just like every awesome astronomical event that's ever happened, it's cloud cover. Actually, I can't say that because way back when there was a partial solar eclipse, I think in the 90s, I saw Comet Hale-Bopp when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I was able to see a solstice.
Did you see the people with their Nikes flying up to it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
No, I didn't see any of them.
Yeah.
Saw some try on the news, but I didn't really.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was gonna put that on today, but I did forget to. But what a cool experience. So that's we think that's what people thought was the Christmas star, 2,000 years ago or whatever, because astronomically speaking, you can run the clock back and see where the planets would have been that long ago, and they would have had a similar conjunction back then. But it hasn't happened in like 800 years. And so like last time was like 1200 something or something that, this happened. So what a cool event it was, but it's over now, or, for the most part. They'll be separating now, in the night sky, and still look at it with a telescope, because if you ever see the rings of Saturn with your own eye through an optical telescope, it'll change your life. And the same thing, if you look at Jupiter on a good day, you can see the cloud bands and the moons of Jupiter. Life-changing stuff.
Yeah, when you see something that you've seen in books and you've seen caricatured, basically pictures and cartoon-like, and you're like, yeah, that's just an artist rendering. But then you see it and you go, wait a minute, what? Yeah. That's real?
Yep.
What? Maybe I should believe more in science. And for us, it's like, yeah, we know. I'm not surprised that science is going to show us some amazing things. Like plastic drinking water pipes exposed to high heat can leak hazardous chemicals. And this is one of the science items I found, which I think we're like not surprised, right?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And you know this, but at work, I really dislike having to reheat or heat my food in plastic.
Yeah.
And the reason why is leaching and chemical leaching, which happens at high temperatures, which can happen in a microwave. It's not perfect. Sometimes you have to do what you got to do, and you got to reheat what you got to reheat. But I'm really curious in this situation, when I'm looking at the pictures that were in the link, trying to figure out what type of plastic water pipes these were, because like right now in a modern house, what do they call it? The plastic lines that we have now is like a new type of plastic that's a little bit different than like the black old school like PVC type plastic, which is what shows in the picture. And so I am really curious if PEX, that's what I'm thinking. PEX water line is like the new gold standard, overtaking copper. And I'm really curious if it's PEX is included in this. So I need to look into this a little bit more, because they were finding varying amounts of benzene and volatile organic compounds, more than 100 different chemicals. But the pictures that they show were some really scorched water lines that like probably would have been replaced anyway, I think. but it does go to show that leaving a water bottle in a car, for instance, you get that funny taste afterward. Yeah, that's the chemicals that are inside of that plastic,
Yeah.
which are
And everyone doesn't
very,
realize plastic is just chemicals. That's how it's made.
yeah,
It's just
oil,
yeah.
petrochemicals. So benzene is a petrochemical, or it can come from, the distillation of petroleum. And so like petroleum distillates, I mean, yeah, there's a few that are pretty mild or whatever, like paraffin or something, but like, for the most part, they're pretty violent things. Yeah. They do some bad stuff to your body. Benzene is really not something that you want to have if you can avoid it. So water filtration, I think that's a good idea to have. And I have a well in my backyard, a dug well, old school technology. So I've got no chemicals or anything in my water, so I do have to be careful of like bacteria.
Yeah.
So other side of things, like you live more in a city scene where you have treated water, but it's safe. It's safe. Me, I'm pumping in whatever rained a few days ago is coming in my tap, and so you got pros and cons, but we could all probably use some water filtration, especially if,
we all need filters. I mean, as humans, we've got what we're breathing in our lungs come to filter a few things, and of course we've got our nose filtering and stuff like that. So you wonder why you may sneeze when something's dusty. So
our all important livers,
yep,
working their hardest to keep our blood filtered.
So many things in our body doing all that stuff. Yep. Great thing we're gonna get into in another show. Great stuff of that. Now there is one thing that we found out this week, and going back to coronavirus, that in the UK there's a mutation that's happening, and they call it a coronavirus variant. They said it's concerning, but they say don't really freak out. And you're thinking because the vaccine that they already have out, they've sort of like made it in such a way that they think it'll control that new mutation.
Like what I've read about this is that they feel that this new strain has more of those, I think, spike proteins that attach to human cells. And interestingly enough, it's the spike protein that the vaccine actually attacks. So therefore, if there are more spike proteins in a coronavirus, a new coronavirus, not cell, but like, virus particle, there's just more places for this vaccine to kind of have effect, really, because like, so if they can cancel out one of those proteins or whatever, make it not bind, then they can help eradicate it better. So this does seem like the vaccine is definitely going to keep working even with the new strain, which is very good, because that was immediately where everyone's brain went as soon as we heard about it. Of course, right now it did drive some conspiracy theorists to say, oh, of course they say that there's a variant now, that there's a vaccine, because they're thinking that there's going to be this global push to constantly vaccinate and just suck everybody into this weird vaccination schedule or whatever. Like, I don't think that we have to worry and jump to those conclusions. I feel like you're going to hurt yourself stretching that far sometimes, and so it's like, let's take a look at this logically. No scientist is saying, hey, let's start from scratch and make a new vaccine. This vaccine is still going to work, and you and I will still be first in line when it becomes available. I'm advertising that to my friends and my family, and to let them know, like, up here in Maine, we've had thousands and thousands of people vaccinated. I know 2 that have been vaccinated. And in our state, only 1 person has had anaphylactic response, which is something that happens in normal traditional vaccines, because your body senses something that is foreign and it attacks it. And that's one of the dangers. If I go into anaphylactic shock or something because of a vaccine, I won't blame the entire system. It is one of the risks, 0.00 whatever, and so I'm still very willing to take that risk, because there's a 20% chance that I'll end up in the hospital if I get coronavirus. So, if we're talking odds, we'll talk odds.
It's actually, and you never know, now that we know that definitely they're picking who they can serve best based upon what you have for symptoms, and they might be like, still not bad enough, still not bad enough. You could be like, I'm not breathing, I'm turning blue. Still not bad enough.
Like, trust me, we've got bigger fish to feed.
Yeah.
to
Have you
fry right now.
seen? Have you seen the like some of those movies, The Exorcist? Like, oh, that's what's going on in here. You're not doing that yet. You're like, ah!
Yeah.
But
right.
yeah,
And
crazy.
Good news about this variant, though, is that it's not making people sicker.
Yeah.
It's just it is spreading faster,
Yeah.
which is a natural thing that viruses do. They mutate, just like everything else. They evolve. And so anyone who still doesn't believe in evolution, well, explain evolution when we're looking at a creature like this virus is evolving in front of our eyes. Like, we can measure the change. But so it is something predicted. Everybody knew it was going to happen. It's falling in line when you get this many people that are sick. It has, each person's body has the ability to inflict some sort of mutation inside of the genetic sequence of a virus. And so therefore, every time someone gets sick, there's another opportunity for it to mutate. So one of those things, but we'll keep fighting the good fight.
I know. Now on to something almost space related. We're getting there. A new iron-based catalyst converts carbon dioxide into jet fuel.
Now, I had heard about that.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that before.
I feel like we did. Yeah. And I was, well, did we talk about iron as an actual fuel? Or was that one that we talked about yet?
Yeah, I thought it was, I think that was one of the things where you use that just because it's so abundant.
Yes, exactly. And the Earth's made out of it, so it'd be a perfect fuel.
Yeah.
Very difficult, way different line of thought, but in this case, they can take a reaction chamber with carbon dioxide and hydrogen. So hydrocarbon is hydrogen and carbon dioxide, and so therefore, if you burn carbon dioxide or react hydrogen with carbon dioxide, it's going to form hydrocarbons. And so what's interesting is that the catalyst separates the oxygen molecules to form the hydrocarbons that then you burn as fuel. So anything that we can do to reduce our carbon footprint is good. However, anytime that we create a new fuel, we create a new system of delivery. Yeah. And so, like, electric vehicles skirt that because we already have the infrastructure for delivering electricity. Even though in America it's a greatly weakened and very outdated system compared to like Europe. Yeah. That's something we can cover on another topic someday, but at least the delivery system is there. You plug your car in, boom. So if we're making a new type of fuel, like hydrogen was a big thing a while ago, but producing it, transporting it, storing it, and delivering it, meaning like just a dispenser that will work with a car, all of those are going to be brand new technologies and things that you have to develop and mass produce before it can ever go into into actual trials. And so I like all these new discoveries. Everyone is someone trying to do the right thing, but something that I've learned about recently is the feasibility of dreams is not always held back by like actually proving something can work, but if you can make it cheap enough and sell it for a high enough profit. And so such is the way our world works. And I feel like this is one of those things that there's still 10 years of research involved before we can ever make it. But
same thing with like a lot of supplements too, where people are like, well, we're waiting for this to happen. And some of the major companies don't want to take it up because they're like, no, is no money in that. We're not seeing a lot of data yet, or it's something that they know they can't run with because they're going to have a hard time to sell it. It's kind of the same way where, big pharmacy companies don't want to make, vaccines for one of them. They honestly don't really want to make them. I mean, this is a big push to make this because of this thing we're going through. And they also don't want to make antibiotics because it's not like a big sale item. Compare that to like Viagra. And everyone's like, yeah, we want to make Viagra. That's a big thing. Everyone wants that. But Nobody wants to the things that'll make us well or keep us well. It's like, it's not a big ticket item. You're like, well, kind of the most important thing.
Yeah, it's crazy what people will spend their money on and what they won't. Like, you know, we will complain about our taxes all day long, and then, you know, we wonder why we haven't been back to the moon in 40 years and why we're not off on this planet yet when we have all of the technology available to do so. And it's like the things that we choose to spend our money on, we'll choose to spend our money on, you know, wars and bombs, and, you know, even though we have the biggest military budget in the world, we'll keep feeding that machine, and we'll ignore some of the things that could actually benefit us as a society. And then, you know, that's macroeconomic scale. On the microeconomic scale, you'll get people that will spend their money on, you know, soda and, you know, just other unhealthy things versus, you know, just trying to do some things that'll take care of your body and then that save you money down the road when you're not in the hospital or, you know, suffering from complications of something. But, you know, it is the human experience. We're fallible creatures. We've talked about that before. Yeah, so what else we got for science here? Anything else?
How future spacecraft might handle tricky landings on Venus or Europa. There's a whole thing they had on, basically giving some ideas on how we're going to have to land on these, you know, more difficult planets, especially things that are much further away. So we can't basically, any instructions we give are going to be like time delayed by hours, possibly. So,
yeah, by
I think Europa, did we do something on Europa yet? We might have done something.
No, Titan. Yeah, so we've had a lander on Titan, but that mission unfortunately went a little screwy on the way down. But Europa is another one of those ones that's like really, really important that we study this, because there is a possibility that there's life there, and not like we can move there or anything, but, you know, anytime soon. But definitely for, you know, astrobiology's sake, it's worthwhile to go and check out. But this is interesting that they have to come up with something different. Now, I thought that you know, landing on a planet wouldn't be the most difficult part, but it is interesting that they've got some difficult things to look at, apparently. Let me see. Yeah, so well, it looks like they're talking about landing on Venus as well. Now, Venus actually is pretty much a planet that has a lot of dead robots on it right now. So we could talk to Russia about what they did to land on Venus, because they're the only ones that have done it. But no, we really got to go and explore these places. It's really interesting to see that we're talking about landing on those places, because, you know, in my world, you hear all these dreams, but you never really see a lot of people push for it.
But are there aliens out there?
But if they are, they're very small microbes. That's pretty much all it looks like, unfortunately. But
what about this radio signal I heard about?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. There's a very narrow band radio signal coming from somewhere around Proxima Centauri, and we picked up the signal last year in 2019. It didn't get processed until sometime this year, or at least recognized till sometime this year. So the SETI Institute, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, are the ones scanning the skies looking for these radio signals. It is something very unique, being a narrowband radio signal. There are always some natural phenomenon that can cause that. Obviously, if it's coming from the star itself, it's definitely not life, you know. Yeah. But if it happens to be coming from a planet that's in orbit around it, you know, and it just happened to look like it was coming from the star, but it's really behind it or something, you know, that could be interesting. But it's probably a natural occurrence, just something that we don't understand yet. But at least we have people that are on the case looking for this stuff, because there's always a chance that there's going to be some strange planets TV signals that accidentally get here, like ours are being broadcast into space right now. And so It's really
weird.
interesting.
Like you get contact from something, and then it's like, well, this is how far away this thing is. It like
Yeah,
literally is like 1,000 years away.
yeah.
So yeah, in 1,000 years we'll know. But by 1,000 years, look how far we're gonna come. And
Well,
unfortunate to everybody currently living, most of them are gonna be not be alive. And we say most because some of us believe that in our lifetimes there will be a way to live indefinitely, or at least until be frozen until you can be unthawed and live indefinitely.
well, in Proxima
Hopefully,
Centauri, we could, if there was a civilization on Proxima Centauri, we could have a dialogue with them because they are about 4.25 light years away. So we could send a signal, wait a presidential election cycle, and then wait for the response, and back and forth every 4 years we communicate with them. But it would take 1,000 years for a human or robot to ever venture from one to the other, unless they're way more not civilized, but or advanced than we are. That's about what we're looking at for travel time. So, it'd be cool to discover this stuff. And I definitely think that mathematically speaking, it would be a really strange situation if we were alone in the universe. I feel like not only that, I feel like it's impossible that we're alone in the universe, just given the vastness of it. However, I also think that it's incredibly difficult or very unlikely that we could even sense, and find where life is just because of the distances, the time involved, and things like that. But we'll keep looking, which is good.
yeah. Well, our main topic today, and we're not in any mood to like really push into it because it's another one of those holidays that it's great for children and for those that celebrate it. And we will want to make note that not everyone celebrates Christmas. There are several other holidays happening around this time of year, and we make note of it, especially in the schools we work in. We don't really talk about any specific holiday because we're all inclusive to all students. But for the most part, in Maine, in the U.S., the majority celebrate Christmas. And
Yep.
what is it going to look like this year for a lot of people? You said you've
Yep.
seen a lot of things being posted lately that's got some, it's unnerved you a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, so we're talking about the new American Christmas because it's got to be different this year
Yeah.
than previous years. However, there are clearly people that don't agree, and I'm seeing people on Facebook posting big group gatherings of extended family, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, in one room, all hugging and getting the group photo in front of the tree, as if we weren't in the middle of a giant pandemic.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's really unfortunate because, like we were talking about the new American Thanksgiving, like it should be different this year. It's only 1 year. And I know that, there are different philosophies out there where you're going to live like, every day is like your last and all that stuff. But like, sure. Well, some realists are going to be like, well, odds are I'll be alive in the next 5 years. So I'll get a few more Christmases. I'll get a few more Thanksgivings. I'll get a few more Hanukkahs. I'll get a few more things, whatever.
Yeah.
We can do without one. And us introverts, we'd appreciate going through this year without one of these things. Like it's great. Like, so we had a family member try to invite themselves over on Christmas Day, saying we're going to bring presents. We're going to have this
We're coming over whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and as if nothing was different. And the quote was, "Don't worry, I've been tested." As if like, oh, you got tested in November? Oh, okay, no, you're good. You're good. Like, it's like,
I was tested. When it first came out, I was tested. Great.
Yeah.
You need to get tested like every day. Like this is like blood glucose testing that you need to do. This is like,
yeah. I wish we had that capacity. You'd think that at this point we could almost, but like, sure, I'll prick my finger every day and put it in something if I need to say, all right, no corona, go to work. all right,
Yeah.
But yeah, and I thought it was very interesting. And it's like, and this is a person that normally in his history, the last 9 months, has been right on message with the scientists and right on message with like what we've been talking about, wearing masks, social distancing, taking care of the people that just can't work, like that.
Yeah.
The restaurant industry is destroyed, and around here that's a huge deal. And so this person has been on board with all that messaging up until now, and they pretend like because it's family, it's safe. And it's like, no, right now, the big jumps, the big spikes are coming from family spread, not from community spread. So this is something to be taken seriously. Sure, just having a couple of people over in the house is minimally risky, but that's because the CDC is wording things very gently for people, because there are some people that are like, if they saw the words "do not hang out with anyone,"
Yeah.
they would take offense to it and clutch their pearls and be all up in arms against the government coming down on them. But it's like, come on, people, that's how disease spreads.
Yeah.
How about let's skip a year? We'll zoom it in. We have all of the technology to reach out to people that we ever could ever need in our entire lives. Come on, like, let's work together, get through this. But it's crazy. So I mean,
stay away, live another day.
Yeah, I like that. I like that one. Like that's it's a good thing to say. I try to talk to the students, but I can't say stuff like that strong.
We can't really talk about Christmas. Now I do feel bad this time of year when we do have students come by and say Merry Christmas, and they want you to say them Merry Christmas to you, but then next in line is someone who's clearly not celebrating Christmas. No, and this could be from the bigger immigrant population that we serve. And we're like, they're not celebrating Christmas, and I do not want to make them feel alienated by being like, oh yeah, Merry Christmas. Yes, Christmas is the best, this, that. And I've never done that. I've never been pro any religion, pro any holiday, specifically, in school, because I don't want it to belittle anyone's beliefs or anything like that. We want to be as completely open and engaging with everybody. Yep. But I still have students all day, this, that, and they want to talk about it in class, and they want to bring this up and that, and hey, look, it is a tree. That tree means it's Christmas. And I'm like, actually, no. Trees were a pagan thing, and they originally to keep evil spirits away, because evergreen basically throughout the winter stays green. And this is one of those things that people thought, wow, everything else goes, dead and dormant, and that stays alive during the winter. There must be something magical about that, and people die during the winter. 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, people are dying because it's so cold that it's like, hey, this is magical thing that's outside that let's bring it into our house. Maybe it'll keep away the spirits that are killing everybody. Instead of thinking of germs and pneumonia and things like that.
It's interesting to celebrate something that's magical and that lives through the winter by chopping it down and letting it die inside your house. But
let's bring it inside your house. Go give it some water. It needs to live longer. Okay, great.
Yeah, we've done some crazy things as humans, and we've talked about how certain belief systems and believing in certain things is kind of one of those kind of things that it's a very human thing that not all of us do. But so because I've celebrated a secular Christmas my entire life, I don't have any super strong that I have to say Merry Christmas. I don't care. I had the same thing happen where a student, it seemed deliberate, because we have students that parrot their parents, and they seemed deliberate in front of the whole class to say Merry Christmas, and my retort was Happy Holidays, because I don't care what holiday it is. We talked about celebrating Hanukkah just because my daughter wants to open more presents throughout the throughout the few days preceding Christmas. We didn't end up doing it because we just would be we're basically making up our own holiday anyways. But I thought that there was 12 days in Hanukkah. I didn't know the first thing about it, and I just knew that there were candles, and it could be the same thing for those students that are like, Christmas isn't that thing where the guy with the hat, you know, like, I don't know much
Yeah.
about it, you know, and you don't need to like make sure that kid knows about it. Like, no, this is a very specific thing. Like, it doesn't matter. Just
Yeah.
like there's
Oh, and some people want to make it very specific, and they
some
want
people do,
to
yeah.
push their agenda on somebody. And I feel bad for the kindergartners, first graders that really,
Yeah, the really young
any
kids.
second and third graders as well, because I heard that this week too, where they're really like, no, this is going to happen, and this is like, and they really want to like engage everybody with like a semi-rational talk about how real the next few days is going to be, and how
Yeah.
magical they're going to be, and how magic is real, and this, and we're like, okay, let's, and I just go right on with whatever I'm teaching, like, okay, next subject, okay, let's do this,
Right.
because it's like,
my
yeah,
daughter's raised in a very secular, very scientific based household, and so she says that she knows that, she goes, magic isn't real except for Santa and the Tooth Fairy. It's like,
yeah,
yep, okay, that'll work for now, you know. And but you know, we certainly have let her know that this Christmas is going to be a little bit different. We won't be going over to Nana's house to open up presents. We won't be going over to Grampy's to meet with all the cousins, and you know, like we normally do. And luckily, as kids, they're resilient. They're just sort of like, but I still get to open presents, right? Like, yeah, sure you do. Like, oh, all right, well
yeah,
then never mind. I don't care, you know.
yeah, we're just going to keep it. I mean, I always feel like that we have to rethink some of these traditions,
Yeah,
considering that even though there's a vaccine coming out, I mean, is this going to be the last of these pandemics? I mean,
no,
definitely not. I don't think we're going to wait like another 100 years for another one. I think there's going to be more of these. And
yeah,
then should we rethink how these are celebrated, and maybe what they actually mean?
yeah,
Then that's
yeah.
one of the things where, how is this going to get into how people celebrate Christmas in
Well,
specific? Not just being together and this and that, but like the whole message of Christmas, which usually is a social one,
right.
and that, and they want to talk about birth of Christ as well, and bring it into that Christianity, but maybe how that's versed has to be a little bit different, considering if we're living under like this dark cloud of a pandemic, or just the fact that being around somebody can get you sick,
Yeah.
and you may not live, and it's just going to be, you got to be weary of everybody. I mean, everybody is a weapon against you potentially, and they don't even know they are.
So if history is any insight into what we're going to do, is basically nothing. Because I look back at 1918 with the
Spanish flu.
yeah, Spanish flu, and 2 or 3 years later, especially, was the Roaring Twenties, and in 1920, early 20s, was just party central. It was just everybody wanted to party. That was when I think we got rid of prohibition, and it was we have never seen people normally wearing masks outside of the last 9 months, and a few like scattered photos of 1918 and 19, and it's like, I don't know. I think that it's going to go right back real quick as soon as we get, history says that as soon as we get a what do you call it, when everybody either gets, so the Spanish flu went away because everybody either got sick and died, or they got sick and over it. Herd immunity.
Herd immunity, yeah.
So once you reach herd immunity, it just seems that everybody's just sort of like, onward, moving on, whatever. We're just gonna get it. Who cares? Move on. And I really don't want it to be like that this time. I really would like us to go, hey, let's look back at history and just say, okay, 30,000 people dying from the flu every year. Perhaps 30 to 70, I should say, 30 to 70,000 people dying from the flu each year. Maybe some of these social gatherings in the wintertime, maybe there's some other things we can do. Maybe there's some changes we can make.
Yeah.
Bobbing for apples in Halloween, when winter is coming on. Like, maybe we should just get rid of some of these crazy traditions. You know, unfortunately, maybe we should normalize mask wearing and
It could be the
you know,
mask. The mask. Like, let's do the mask holiday. You start wearing masks on Halloween because you're going to wear a mask anyways, and then
yeah,
just continue it all throughout the winter. Call it the
yeah,
winter mask, and you know what keeps you warm too.
absolutely. I love the mask. Actually, so my father came over today to help me set up something outside. So we had to repair a chimney outside, both of us masked, and it we it helps. It helps outside in 20-degree weather.
Yeah.
Wearing a mask, you're working outside for hours, and you're just like, hey, I don't have to worry about like this part of my face, especially like skiing and stuff, or you know, anytime that wind's blowing really hard, like it abrases your skin.
Oh yeah.
Not with a mask, no. Like that part is great. I got a little bit of a beard now. You know, I usually grow like a huge beard at this time of year. Like I stopped shaving in November and just have a massive beard as big as I can get because I want to walk outside and not have my face hurt.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry. I can keep it nice and short. You know, this is actually a lazy man's beard. I just need to cut it. But mask is all I need. I actually appreciate it. So, you know, I think we should all learn from this. For us as musicians, I am looking forward to the party. Afterwards, I really want to play another rock show someday.
I keep thinking you mentioned now the 20s and having the parties and that, and then you think about the children that were born because of that were basically those that fought in World War II, which they consider the greatest generation because of what they had to go through then. And I'm hoping people aren't going to be like making that like, gee, we know we're going to have, because there's another big joke going around social media about how many kids are going to be born, 9 months from now, 6 months from whenever. So it's like,
that'll be an interesting statistic because my wife and I were talking about it. But it's like, you know, if you made it through 2020 and your relationship is stronger, you've done something awesome. Like, or you found the right one, because this is the year that you made it or broke it, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
Make or break it with your significant other. And because being alone with someone for a long period of time is what really lets you know who they are. And
that's the crucible right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And that should be kind of like why these holidays going to be different. It's going to be more of a close family unit rather than the extended family getting together. It's gonna be something different where, and I think I still would love to see a science sort of thing around all of this where it's more about education and science, and I don't know, have a holiday where everyone has to read a science book or something where it's like, hey, guess what? This holiday season, we're going to be doing this on this day. We're going to try to read. Everyone's going to try to read for 3 hours in a row.
I love it.
Try to read something that's nonfiction, that's, about science or about something in the world, and for 3 solid hours. Let's do that. Let's create that. Great.
I think
of course that's never going to win because it's not something that's partying and eating horrible food and stuff and drinking alcohol, but it's, that's what I'm for. I'm going for that one.
Yeah. Well, I'd like that one. Like a national day of debate. I would like where we all study and learn the artistry of making thoughtful arguments. I feel like if we made a holiday around that, that perhaps people will be able to engage in civil debate, because you can't have a democracy where the people don't talk. Yeah. That's going back to the very birth of democracy in ancient Greece. It's like that's what they talked about. They talked about debate. They debated. That's why we have debate clubs. Like thousands of years of debate. Like that's what democracy is. Let's have these national days of debate. Since we vote in November, which is one of cold season where we're all shuttered in. Let's maybe on the off years, if it's not a presidential election or something, let's let's celebrate debate, and we can do that over the phone. We can do it over Zoom now. We got all these devices we could use. So, that's one of my votes.
Celebrating.
I do like Festivus, though.
Yeah.
The airing of grievances, especially. I would appreciate that.
Fixing yourself. Fixing yourself physically and mentally. I mean, you should be doing that every single day of your life anyways, but that should be the whole thing. Because one of the reasons why you probably mentioned earlier, why introverts in particular, those that are more introvert, prefer not to celebrate these holidays, because it's people, it's family getting together, and it's all of those problems that you might have left behind when you were able to leave the house, and the same social things kind of amplified, where extended family members are in a different job or in a different socioeconomic status, and they want to rub it in, or they want to talk about this, and there's this comparing, and that's happening, and people are upset about that, or there's something that just, some decade long possibly, or a year long, or even longer, some sort of fight or grievance they've had between family members, and it keeps being brought up, and the memory keeps coming back when people meet. And sometimes they only meet once a year, and it's so stressful for everybody, because they have to put on these game faces and pretend everything's all right. And
we live that here. So this is a good year. We are a family of introverts here, and we are enjoying the lack of socialization. And so it is awesome to force most, not all, extroverts into an introvert holiday, because it is so often the opposite. Where us introverts are forced into this extroverted celebration that we didn't sign up for. So it is nice that the tables are turned a little bit, and I get a little bit of schadenfreude over having people who are extroverted forced to not hug and not socialize in person with people. So it's like,
here, let me. Oh, that's right. We can't do that. You're like, yeah, you can do that.
Oh, sorry. So sorry. I'd hug, but
yeah, I would do this too. I'd come by, but all we can do is a Zoom. Oh, my internet's going bad and stuff like that. And I'm so surprised we're pretty much to the end of this podcast, and I'm doing this on a computer I've used often to record the podcast up until a few weeks ago, where I had to switch to a laptop and do a different setup. I couldn't use like the mic above me and such, and this other microphone, because it wouldn't accept the software that I needed to use to run it. But I happened to order something on Amazon, which is a Wi-Fi adapter, because apparently the Wi-Fi adapter I got some sort of Windows update, and it stopped working, even though it's 8 to 10 years old anyway, so it was about time that didn't work. But the new one was sent. I was sent the wrong one, because Amazon is everything's late now, weeks late, and then things are being sent that are the wrong thing. But what I got sent wrong, I think, was a slight upgrade, at least price wise. It looked that way, but from something that looked like had a nice antenna sticking up, I got something that's just a tiny little nub sticking out of my computer.
But it's working, right?
We haven't had a hiccup yet. I was
not even at all. No,
thinking I'd have to do some crazy editing. We'd have to stop and start again, but
no, it's coming in good.
No, any hiccups you see.
I got my new blue light glasses in from Amazon, which is great. They're working perfect, and I have been waiting for the Halo band, which you have. So mine is coming in. Was supposed to be tomorrow. It now says Monday, and I'm like, I'm chomping
or lost.
Or lost. It'll never come in. Because like I want this thing to come in so that I can take some baseline data, because I haven't been working out in a couple of weeks. I've been eating pretty good still, but I really want to get some baseline data. Once it comes in, I'm going to really double down on exercise and just watch as I improve. Like it's weird though to keep yourself from exercising in anticipation of wanting to measure yourself and change. Like, so it's probably not a good idea, but it is one of those things. Me and you are working on quantifying ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see. I can't wait to start this project once this band comes in. But
our next big thing is going to be pretty drastic, possibly, with blood tests and spending some of our money, or possibly our insurance will take care of some of these things. But we're going to do some major tests and maybe start a couple supplement stacks of some sort that will help with certain things. But we need to know that things are going to work. We need to know what baseline, what we need to work. And it's not just the fact that we, might not feel perfect right now. It's the fact that everyone is aging, and, you want to slow this thing down. If not, completely stop it in its tracks.
Yep.
And the only way to do that is to be proactive. And there's a lot of stuff out there right now, and there's a lot of N of 1 experiments we need to do on ourselves, basically, and along with the help of some scientists that can help with our testing and stuff. But that's basically this break for me, is just reaching out to those organizations that do this sort of stuff and figuring out if our insurance was worth spending all this money on from our paycheck, right?
Yeah, like this break for me is me catching up on all these things I needed to do so that I can finally clear space in my schedule to take care of myself more, which is like exercise, diving into my diet even more, kind of catching up to where Mr. James is. Mr. James is on a way different path than I am right now, just because of past. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, hey, I'm pretty.
I got one. One.
Yeah.
But working on it, and so I'm still quantifying my time.
I should actually, while we're doing that, everyone's looking back there, I should say,
right.
This has been on my shelf, and I'm reading that right now, The Telomere Effect, and I've got another book on Aubrey de Grey just Amazon just delivered today. So yeah, I'll be passing those along to you once you're done with Future Shock. And
that's right here.
Yeah, see, futurist, everybody.
It's a really good basis to start. I mean, it's got a lot of predictions because it's from the 70s. A lot of predictions. I'm in chapter 16 right now, and a lot of the stuff it talks about is stuff that's already happened, come and gone almost, and some of it is still happening. And so it's a really good place to start, realizing where we are. It's hard to move forward if you don't know where you are, and so we're on journeys here, and hopefully you guys keep following us, those of you who are listening or watching out there, and hope you all have a great winter holiday, whatever it is.
Yeah, holiday.
Winter solstice holiday you celebrate.
Celebrate as an introvert, basically.
Yes, alone.
Introvert holiday.
And introverts out there that are listening, I especially wish you a happy winter solstice holiday of your choice, because it should be a better one than normal, and enjoy it for everything you can. Go buy the champagne and drink it all alone if you want. Go and say hi to people from text, and let your day belong to you.
Bring your evergreen in and keep the evil spirits away, which could just be family members.
Yep.
All right. Well, everybody have a great holiday. We will be back with another show before the end of the year, which is going to be our wrap-up show to wrap up the year, and maybe kind of go back in some of the episodes, talk about things we talked about and how we've progressed. Because the next time we meet you in the new year, we're going to hopefully have a completely different format and look different. We might not even use Zoom to do these things. So we'll see, as long as this computer can hold up, or maybe we come into some money. I don't know. I don't know.
We're always hopeful.
Watch this, please subscribe, do what you can.
That's right.
Yeah.
We do have a Patreon out there. Look for us.
I hope the link still works. It doesn't work on our website so far, but I don't know. Maybe it does. That's what I keep putting in our show notes. But all right, I'm Mr. James.
And I'm Mr. Richie.
And we are the educators. Have a good night.